computers will become, and are already much more sophisticated than the programs which operate them. And so really in the future it's how inspired people are going to be in using them, not in what the computers can do. Can get endless hours of rather boring grey computer music from a single program, and in that way the computer does compose, or can compose, bad, enormous amount of stuff. But there's no reason for this, and you could do the same thing with a pianola, and you could just punch holes at random and get sounds out. But people weren't very frightened by this idea. Basically there's a computer, and this operates a lot of devices, including tape recorders and oscillators, amplifiers. You can go from things like, as I say, loudness or frequency to acceleration, or more dangerously and perhaps more exciting, things like probability of loudness or acceleration. And finally to perhaps ideas like surprise, tension, which again perhaps can be put in numerical forms or algebraic forms. There are several ways of actually putting information in. Through a typewriter, for instance, you can just type in numbers or words or symbols. Well, first of all comes an enormously long and tedious business of writing a program. It's a correcting of it. It takes probably 10 times as long as writing. I suppose something like, out of the original program, perhaps a tenth of it is acceptable. And so there's an enormous long period in preparing what your final material is going to be. And then comes the really exciting thing of finally just pressing the start button, and the whole piece is more or less finished. And there's no pre-recording or anything like that. And so the final actual effort on the computer is as long as the piece and is done in real time.
I'd always wanted to work with electronic sound producing sources, and in fact it was just a chance opportunity that I was offered the chance to work with Peter Zinovieff, and the chance, of course, was greatly attractive to me on account of the fact that his computer-controlled mechanisms were a great deal more flexible than anything I'd encountered previously. We wanted to try what has never really been done before, this kind of thing of collaboration, which is, I think, possible, where the technical knowledge is more or less equally divided between the people, but each has a field of his own. First we had a general discussion about the kind of thing we wanted to do, and we fixed more or less what we would have in the way of instrumental forces. Peter definitely wanted to have a singer. He also wanted to have a violin. That suited me quite well. And eventually, having settled on the notion of a singer and of a text for the piece, we then went away and thought about the kind of structures that would be most apposite, both from the textual point of view, and we eventually hit upon the notion of a canonic treatment of the piece. And you get the same kind of material turning up again and again in varied juxtapositions. This is a characteristic of my instrumental music anyway, so I felt pretty happy about that. As it happened, he'd hit upon the same notion for electronic manipulation, but in its own terms.
Well, it's really very mathematical, and that is that every aspect of a score is expressed in some algebraic way. This is a graphic representation of a state of affairs which might be expected at any one time. It's not a linear score in that it doesn't go from left to right or from right to left. Basically, if you see lots of small dots, this will probably mean lots of small sounds. And if it's large and heavy blocks, it probably means thick, dense sounds. It would be inconceivable to tackle any part of this by a classical method, because the amount of calculation to realize this is really gigantic, and the amount of information actually given out, even to the bits of apparatus, is probably several thousand a second. And one just couldn't juggle around in this precise mathematical way with sound if you didn't have a computer to do it for you. I mean, one might, after about a month, produce one single sound.
The text is a text of Samuel Beckett, taken from his novel How It Is, and it deals with a communication problem. It's a kind of torture game played between two people, and the one is attempting to elicit a response from the other, and it's a kind of dream state in a way, because it's impossible for any explanations to be made. Otherwise, of course, there'd be no story, because the story consists entirely of the attempts of the interrogator to get a response from the other person with the aid of various things, including a can opener and blows on the skull. And in general, the text is a tabulation of these stimuli as a means of communication. Many people who think they know what music is in terms of Bach or Mozart, or people who have a very strong bias in favour of the classical, will find it much harder to take something which they'd be perfectly willing to accept if it were called by some other name than music. The notion of exploring musical sound structures and so on is, despite one's wish to communicate with other people, something that you do ultimately undertake because you have to for reasons that you don't really understand. music seems to be sounds and the organization of sounds just as much for us as it was for Bach. And in many ways, the problems of composition don't really change that much. The one is still in the same trade, after all, as Mozart. That's quite something.